What up, guys? It's Jace Cassity, just tuning in for Facebook Live. We have done these AMAs or Ask Me Anythings a lot over on Instagram, but I wanted to pass these over to the Facebook community. I asked the question over on Instagram to gather a bunch of questions that I could then come over here and answer on this Facebook Live. I'll obviously just repurpose this video, put it back on Instagram as an IGTV and YouTube and whatnot. But this is just an idea that I thought would be a good time to start. I want to get these out on a more consistent basis. If you have any questions about me or my team or Compass or the real estate macro market in general, feel free to reach out with these questions either on Instagram or Facebook. We'll get them answered for you. And yeah, let's get rolling. So I asked these questions about 4 or 5 hours ago over on our Instagram page. I just grabbed 5 of them. I think some people have, I got a lot of like comments in there and stuff like that. These are specifically questions people have that I want to answer. So I brought them over here to Facebook. I'm going to answer them for you. So number 1, we got a question from Kevin Owens. It says, what are you doing as far as geographic farming marketing for the next month? It's actually a really good question. So initially, my team, we send out about, let me like sit here so it's focused up here. We send out probably about 1,500 mailers each month. We do postcard mailers, so they're like 6 by 11. And then we do them on like a 3-month rotation. So the first month would be like, what's your home worth? The second month would be like social proof piece, which would be like, hey, this is how many homes that we've sold in your neighborhood over the past 90 days. And then the third piece would be something along the lines of like a review piece. And it says usually like what your neighbors are saying. And it's like a review from a past client in your neighborhood that we've done. So we send out about 1,500 of those to our farm. And your farm can either be a geographic farm, like 92101 zip code or 92102 zip code or whatever, or it can be a farm of specific people that you've curated. You can have like your title rep actually curate out. So what we do is we actually do a downtown luxury farm. So we have homeowners in 92101 and part of 103 in the Bankers Hill area that have owned their condo for more than 5 years and bought for more than $1 million. So basically it's like a luxury homeowner farm. It's not just geographic, but you can do that with any neighborhood. You know, you just have your title rep pull those. So now for the next month, nothing changed in the sense it got a little bit squirrely because in March, the second 2 weeks of March, we had like a circle the wagons type scenario here where we were just kind of analyzing the situation and what was going to happen. And so my March mailers bumped into the first week of April. So we'll probably send another one at the end of April just to get back on track because we usually do these once a month pretty consistently right around the middle of the month. So nothing the answer is nothing's changed. We're still going to be sending out our mailers. What's changed is the messaging on those. And so for the one that just went out or is about to go out this first week of April, instead of, it was supposed to be a what's your home worth piece that's like visit www.thecassyteam.com for a free evaluation of your home or something along those lines, and then I put a little note on the back. That's changed to how can we help? So the messaging changed a little bit, and it basically didn't talk about real estate one bit. It said, hey, just want to let you know, like, we're here to help. This is kind of a weird, unprecedented time. If you have any questions, reach out to us. If you need help getting groceries, picking up medicine, like, reach out to us. We're here to help. You let us know. And that's it. And so the messaging changed a little bit as opposed to that. And then for the next April piece, we'll probably do something very similar where instead of doing like a what's your neighbors or what your neighbors are saying about us piece, it's going to be something along the lines of, like, here's what we're doing in the community, supporting small businesses. If you need us help, let us know. You know, that type of stuff where we're just kind of like, we're just offering our services. Because I think really, I mean, this goes outside of mailers too, but during this time right now, your marketing, you should almost double down on your marketing in the sense of like how often you're sending or what you're sending. But the messaging has to be from the heart, and it has to lead with like empathy first. If you try to lead with any type of sales, you're going to come off as really tone deaf. during this time, especially. So whether that be in your pay-per-click marketing, your social media marketing, your mailers, you need to think long and hard about the messaging that you're putting out, not just, continue putting out content. I think content and marketing, just think about the messaging a little bit more. That's all. So great question, Kevin. Number 2 question was from Byrne. Have you bought any stocks in the last 3 weeks? Good question, Byrne. Actually, I did buy. I've only bought one. I got to be honest. I'm not like heavily into the stock market. I have money in there. It's mostly real estate holdings, to be honest. I have stock in SoftBank, EXP, Redfin, Zillow. Like a lot of real estate related type companies that I follow. The only one that I bought like at this downturn was actually Peloton. And so you can see here, I've got Peloton. I got it somewhere around mid-March. I'm looking at Roxy because I remember telling her about it. It was right around mid-March. And the reason being, and it wasn't like some super smart thing that like I saw, this shutdown happening and I thought that Peloton was going to be great, which it did turn out to be great. Actually, I had a couple friends buy Pelotons, and they said they really, really loved it. And I'm like, you know what? I could foresee a situation where, if this coronavirus thing gets really bad and we're locked up for 3 months, Peloton takes off. And then, of course, it was like 2 weeks later that we got the stay-at-home order. So, I mean, it was a little bit of foresight mixed with a little bit of luck. But that was the only stock that I've bought in the last like 3 weeks or so. I mean, I'm probably like 85% of the population out there where I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens. And I realize that this is not stock advice. There's probably investors out there that are way smarter than I am that would say, well, now it's low, so now's the time to buy. Double up on all your positions or whatever. Man, I don't know. I just buy stocks in the things that I use mostly. So I have stock in DocuSign. I have stock in Jeep, which is Fiat Chrysler because I own a Jeep. I have stock in Zillow because I think it's the site that consumers use. I have stock in SoftBank because they own Compass. You know what I mean? And so it's really, my stock strategy is very, very basic. So the only stock that I've bought in the 3 weeks is Peloton. Byrne, thanks for your question. Question number 3, which virtual tours platforms are your favorite and why? Okay, Penn Bay Realtor, very good question. So virtual tours, funny enough, they're like forefront of everything right now because everybody has to have virtual tours on your properties. We've been using Matterport for probably about 5 years. And I think my first, even before that, when I worked at 92101 Urban Living, which was an indie brokerage that I started my career at downtown, I wrote a blog. So we're talking 2012 or 13, about how you could use your phone and do circles like this and do Google Street View, and then stitch it together inside of a house. And that was like pre-Matterport. And so we've loved virtual tours and like the technology behind it for years. So when this happened, we were stoked. We already had Matterports for a lot of our listings. One of the changes, and the reason I went into the whole the story here, but one of the changes that we did do from Matterport. So to answer your question, Matterport's the best, I think. It has the clearest image quality. The cameras are expensive as hell, though. They're like $3,000, but there's a lot of companies like your photographer probably already has a Matterport camera, and then you can just hire him like $250 or $300 per property to come out and map it for you. So the cool part about Matterport is it's the clearest camera out there, like period. If you get an operator who knows how to move it throughout the house, it flows really well. And you can get the dollhouse view with the floor plan as well, which is really, really clutch. But then it also allows you, one of the new recent updates allows you to do like points throughout the house. So you can put like a point on the kitchen counters to show off. You can put a picture of the counter, like a close-up, and say like, oh, it's Baltic Sea granite, or this is a high-end Miele appliances. So you can like almost talk more about the house as you walk through it with the Matterport. So I think, to answer your question, Matterport is my favorite and it's the best, I think. One of the things that I did do, and I got the idea, I mean, I had followed these around for a while, but I actually completely stole this idea from Kyle Whistle, shout out Kyle, is that I actually went and bought a Ricoh Theta 5. I think it's a Ricoh Theta V, but it's a Theta 5. Basically, it's a 360 cam, and these are like $300 or something like that. And so, again, you can pay for Matterports. It's like $300 a pop, or you can do one of these, which is a Ricoh Theta, and it comes on like a tripod. And basically, you can actually do these yourself, and you can position them throughout the entire place. The reason that Ricoh Theta comes in clutch is because Zillow, with their 3D Home app, they allow you to update a 3D or put in a 3D home on your Zillow listing. And if you do that, it'll bump your results higher on the Zillow searches. They don't work with Matterport though. So in order to get that, you have to do the Zillow 3D Home app, which you can actually just do with your phone, although it's kind of choppy, or they will accept a Ricoh Theta V input, which is why I decided to buy this. Not only is it a little bit of a cheaper option, but it actually works with Zillow. And so I'm going to try, it's my first time working with Ecamm here, but I'm going to try to do a screen share so you can see what we're working with here. Basically, this here is a Ricoh Theta 3D tour of one of my listings at 41 West. So you can see here, it still gives you the 360. You can click along the way and like move throughout the property, and you still get a full 360 view. And this is the Ricoh Theta, and then I also have the Matterport pulled up, and this is for one of the penthouses over there. So as you go through it, like the Matterport camera, and I don't know if it's really showing well on here, but it's a much clearer image. And then I don't have the dots on this one, but like you could click a dot here and say, hi, Miele Appliances, and talk all about them. I do like the Matterport a little bit better, but if you're just comparing them like right next to each other, they're not a whole heck of a lot different. Although, again, the quality is a little bit better on the Matterport. So anyways, now I don't know how to bring it back. Hang tight. This is technical error. Boom. Okay. I'm back. So anyways, that was the difference between Matterport and Ricoh Theta. I think they both have their perks, but I like the Ricoh Theta a little bit better. So, all right. So on to the next one. We've got Real Josh Hill. How are you keeping in touch with your team regarding business on a personal basis? That's a fantastic question. So every Monday, we do our team meeting. So we actually just did it today. For the first time, I actually recorded it this morning, and I'm going to post it on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and stuff. So basically, we would just record it. It was a 45-minute meeting. It was probably actually about 35 minutes. The first 10 minutes or so was me like logging in and getting it ready and stuff. So we stay in touch. Honestly, we have a GroupMe thread as well, and I'd say we probably check in on each other twice a week as well. We share, successes and, just make sure that everybody's surviving and all that type of jazz. And then, of course, we're pretty connected via social media and stuff too, so we'll send each other memes or tag each other in different things. But so from the business angle of it, we do have our weekly meeting. I also send out a weekly, it's called the Cassity Team Digest, but basically it's an email at the beginning of each week, and I got this idea from Jimmy Mackin, who's the CEO of Curator. Shout out Curator. This was based on a book that Jimmy wrote with Chris Smith and Phil Jones called Exactly What to Say. It was actually called Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents. But so I send out a Cassity Team Digest, which is an email basically telling my team exactly what to do for the week. And it's not necessarily micromanaged per se. It's more like, here's what I'm going to do this week, and this is what I suggest you guys do too. So it'll say like exactly what to watch, and it'll be a Tom Ferry video or a Gary Vee video or a video from whatever. And it'll be exactly what to read. And then it'll be like chapters 1 through 10 of this book, and we're reading through it together. And it'll say exactly what to post even. And it'll say, hey, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, post this video, post this link or whatever. And so basically I try to stay in touch and provide value by giving them the Cassity Team Digest each week. On top of that, we stay in touch via social. We have a GroupMe thread, and then we have our monthly meeting, our weekly meeting every Monday at 9:30. For the first time I recorded it, it's going to get posted, so you guys can all check it out. We think it's thrilling, but you guys may not. But if you want to see the format and the structure that we do, we've been doing that via Google Hangouts, because with G Suite, you can just set a calendar event, and then everybody can just log in, and then it actually gives you like a Google link. I'm sure you can figure out how to do it on Zoom or whatever too. So good question. Oh, Roxy told me that Jessica asked a question in the comments. I'll get to that in just a second. I actually see him. So did Jill. Okay, Sanjay Solomon, advice for a 20-year-old looking to continue building a network and contacts in SD. Uh, Good question, man. First of all, 20 years old. Good on you, man. You are way ahead of the game at this point. I mean, 20 years old. It's actually almost tough to advise because like you're gonna have some challenges just being that young that a lot of people like I never had to deal with, so I can't even help you in that sake. One of the things that I would advise you is the fact that to not forget that you're 20 years old. Like you have such a unique like competitive advantage right now. You could theoretically like start your business, go through 3 or 4 years, like the first 2 years, the tough years, get into year 3 and 4, start making money, decide you hate the business, go on a year sabbatical to like Europe, travel the world, come back, and you would still be younger than me when I started in this business. Like you have so much time on your hands at being 20 years old. Like it's a huge competitive advantage. One of the disadvantages is just that you're going to run into a lot of pushback and objection handling with older clients, and especially older clients, that have done this a few times. They're gonna be like, you're just going to run into it just because you're that young. It's not something that you can't overcome. In fact, I would encourage you to like actually sharpen up your skills with that objection handling, because I think you'll be able to be a much stronger real estate agent if you're able to head that out. So sorry for the tangent, but what's my advice to you for building your network? I would say that your best thing that you can do right now is to target out flippers and developers. And the reason I say that specifically is because one of the main things that I try to teach, the macro of what it is staying top of mind to your sphere, right? And like that's literally, ask my team, like that's all I say all the time is that there's nothing we can do to make somebody spend $700,000 on a house, but what we can do is put out content, valuable, engaging, educational content for 3 years straight, so that when they're ready to spend $700,000 house, they call us before calling somebody else or going to Zillow or Google. That's our entire macro marketing strategy right there. For you at 20 years old, your sphere probably isn't in the buying phase yet. Now, maybe you have some people that are, but for the most part, you're probably 10 years away from having a big sphere in the buying and selling space. So what you need to do is you need to target people who are already in the buying and selling space. And so flippers and developers, I think, is the best network that you can start to build out now in order to get now business. And how do you do that? Honestly, flippers are really easy to find. Just be a real estate agent. You're going to get 125 calls and texts and emails a day of people looking for off-market properties. But actually take those names down and like build a little Rolodex of people that you can reach out to when you find a valuable property to flip. Developers too, the best way to do this that I've found is if you go to your MLS and then you search for detached homes, like we call them custom homes or whatever, built in 2019 or newer. So you can go into your search and you can like switch, put in your preferences, go to the year built, type in 2019 or newer in the zip code or area that you work in or whatever. You can go all of San Diego, or you can narrow it down to Encinitas or whatever, insert city here. But you can actually search for newer homes built. And so when you get your results, you'll get 54 results or whatever it is of detached homes built in 2019 or newer, or as you go further in 2020, whenever you're watching this, pick this year. And you can actually look at the homes and you can tell right away which ones were like flips or which ones were developments. And then you can actually click on the tax, like the CRS tax record, and you can look at the name, usually an LLC, but the name of the person who did the development or the flip. And then you can put those into a spreadsheet and then Google those names of those LLCs and try to find the officer or who generally it's going to be like an owner, a CEO if it's a single person. If it's 123 Banana Street LLC, that might be tougher to find. But if it's, I don't know, Pelican Development, then you can Google that or LinkedIn that, and you may be able to find the developer and contact them that way. So now as you start to develop out or build out your Rolodex of flippers and developers, you can then search the MLS and try to find off-market properties or properties that have margin in them to flip, and then bring them the deal. And so if you're able to do that, you now have a Rolodex of developers and flippers. You can get the buy side by bringing them the deal, And then typically what they're going to do is they're going to list it with you on the way out when they flip it or when they develop it. Why does that matter? Because now you have, not only do you have transactions going on, but you have listings too. And then listings beget more listings. Because once you get the first listing, you're going to open house the heck out of it. You're going to farm the neighborhood. You're going to send mailers, all of that type of stuff. And then if you do a really good job for that developer, they're going to think of you in the future when they need to do more projects and stuff like that, right? So that is my advice on how to build a network of contacts in the real estate space here in San Diego for a 20-year-old, along with some added color on the front end of that about being 20. But anyways, man, that's a great question, and thanks for sending it over. I'm going to jump to Facebook. I see that Jessica Schatz, shout out Jess, who is from my team, says, what's one personal positive thing that's come out of this time that we're all staying at home? That is a fantastic question. I really appreciate you asking me this. And for those of you watching, I didn't ask Jessica to come on here and ask me that. So shout out, good helping. For me, the best personal thing that's come out of this is my ability to stay home with Jet, because I have a 3-month-old son and I don't get paternity leave in this business, right? And so this is probably a time that I would have been at work at the office a lot more, and I wouldn't have spent as much time at home with him. And so honestly, that's probably been the best personal thing, is that he turned 3 months old on Saturday. He's rolling over now and he's like laughing more and stuff like that. It's just stuff that I feel like I probably would have missed if it wasn't for this specific time. So I find that as a silver lining or a blessing in disguise. Time with Jet. Thanks, Jess. Jill asked, hey, Jason, does Zillow increase views when you use their 3D, like when they do the video walkthrough? Yep, exactly. And so that is why, going back to it, I bought the Ricoh Theta V, or 5, whatever, because I wanted to shoot using Zillow's native, they'll accept the Theta, because having a Zillow 3D home bumps your listing to the top of Zillow. So again, that's why Ricoh Theta got the plug over Matterport when it comes to Zillow. But going back to it, Matterport is still much better quality. So the last question I brought over from Instagram was, how do you work your way into the luxury market? Well, that's a fantastic question. Right now, you don't, because when the market freezes up a little bit, it is the luxury market that takes the hit the first. So basically, right now, anybody over $2 million, it's a very, very tough market to get into, because the day that the stock market dropped like 20%, what was that, like February 24th or whatever, turned into like D-Day for the luxury market, because a lot of those luxury buyers, they don't need to buy a house at that point, right? I always say within my team and stuff like that, is that everybody needs a house, but no one needs a $3 million house. So when you get into that luxury space and you get into a situation like this where the market's froze up and there's a lot of uncertainty, the luxury space goes very, very quiet. So that being said, to answer the technical part of your question, if you wanted to get into the luxury space, there's only a couple of things that I feel like I did. There's 2 ways. You either you grow with your client, which is probably the most common way that you get into the luxury space. When you start out in the business, depending on how old you are and who your sphere is and things like that, you start out with first-time home buyers and entry level, and then after a few years they buy up, and then after a few years after that they buy up, and so they're in Claremont, and then they go up to Carmel Valley, and then they're in Del Mar, and that's how you move along with them, kind of. It's very, very, very tough for me or you or somebody who it doesn't have a big sphere to go to Coronado or La Jolla or Del Mar or Rancho Santa Fe and just jump into those markets. It's almost impossible, right? Because they have typically luxury space sellers are older because they have more money. Not always, but typically they are, because they've accrued more money throughout their life. And then older sellers typically already have a real estate agent because they've grown with their client. So it's a very tough market to break into. Typically, you're going to grow in with your client. Now, that being said, I think I would actually kick this question over to Rachel Kaiser, shout out Rachel, who works with me at Compass, because she did a really, really good job breaking into the La Jolla space. And she is, when I think of La Jolla, I think of Rachel. I mean, there's other, obviously, Noonans and stuff like that, but Rachel has done a very, very good job in a short amount of time parlaying both the developer thing that I just talked about, right? She has a developer client that builds a lot in Bird Rock, and so she's able to utilize that developer to then get into a luxury neighborhood of Bird Rock. But she worked her ass off too, because she actually took those listings and then open housed every listing and door knocked the entire neighborhood in order to take one listing and get more listings. So it's a mix of working with the developer, but then she also put in like the sweat equity in that neighborhood. So that's kind of like the tip, is if you're gonna try to splash right in, you need to piggyback on other agents, like open houses in that neighborhood, and then door knock and open house consistently for like a year though. It's not just gonna happen. You may get lucky and you may just have someone walk in and want to do a $5 million deal. That's typically not going to happen though. But if you start to build up consistency through mailing, door knocking, and open houses in the higher net worth areas, you'll have a shot. Again, talk to Rachel Kaiser. She's fantastic. She grew her business in La Jolla specifically on the back of that. But the way that most people do is they typically grow with their client base. Now, that being said, like my marketing strategy is very heavily digital. Luxury sellers and buyers are still in the digital space too. Like if you wanted to buy Zillow leads in 92037, which is La Jolla, you'll get buyer leads in La Jolla. So it's not, you know what I mean? It's not just wait for it to come. There are things you can go out and do. We snagged a listing in La Jolla based off an Instagram story ad. It's kind of crazy to think, but there are sellers and buyers on social media too. So just continue being consistent there. But because you can't target by like income level and zip codes anymore, that's why I didn't touch on that per se. That was actually from like 3 years ago that we got that lead. It's much, much harder to do that unless you start to create content about, stuff that the luxury space might be into, stuff like, I don't know, golf tournaments and yacht week and stuff like that. You could start to sponsor and get into that space. Not something I've done. I grew into it with my clients, and then I got some through social media, not content creation. Anyways, it's a really, really good question. Thank you for asking. Jamie Anderson from Facebook. Hey, Jason, what program do you use for this particular live? I see you have captions on the screen. Can you give us a brief idea how this works? This is a program called Ecamm Live, ECAMM. I stole this. Well, I didn't steal it. It's $15 a month. I stole this from Curator. Again, number 2, shout out for Curator. Chris Smith and Jimmy Mackin used to do The Water Cooler, which is like a web series that I really, really like. It's really informative. They used to use this service called Ecamm Live. All of these things here, these are overlays that I put in beforehand. Like I screenshot it and put them in beforehand, and then you can hide them and put them back. And then when it's tied to the Facebook, as the comments come in, or if you like it, I see the little likes that come in, and then the comments I can just share. So that's how it works. Ecamm Live. I don't know. I think it's like $15 $15 a month or something like that. So cool. I believe that's it. Oh, Eva, now that barbers and stylists are no longer working, how's your hair looking? My hair is, well, right now it's been in a hat. It's pretty long right now, and there's not much I can do about this. I was considering shaving it and doing that whole look, but my wife wouldn't let me. So for the time being, I'm just kind of edging it up and then hoping that I can get in with a barber soon. So thanks for asking. Cool. Hey, 30 minutes in. I'm super glad that you guys tuned in. I'm going to paste this over to IGTV and YouTube, and then let's do this again in a couple days. It was really fun. Keep the questions coming. I hope everybody stays safe. Please stay indoors. We're almost there. We're about 3 weeks out, and then we can hopefully get back to normal. Stay healthy. Peace.